Hello everybody and welcome to your weekly dose of Game of Thrones with Marius. Today we're going to talk about the House of Black and White and about the infamous Faceless Men. I was hoping to do a 6-minute video, but there is so much information to be condensed in here and so many theories that need to be addressed that in order to actually do this clip, we need at least 15 minutes. I hope you have time and I hope you'll enjoy it. So, without wasting any further time, let's begin. We first encounter the Faceless Men in episode 2 of season 2 when Arya meets Jaqen H'ghar as a prisoner of the crown that is being shipped to the wall. He is being shipped by the same caravan that also is taking Gendry and Arya. During the trip, the caravan is attacked and destroyed by the crown forces, which at the time were looking for Gendry. Our heroes are taken as prisoners and they all reach Harrenhal, where Tywin Lannister has his garrison. In the books it is Roose Bolton with the garrison there, but we will stick with the show version on this one. The curious fact is that Jaqen H'ghar, even though he could have fled, instead chose to stay behind and close to Arya, for reasons we don't immediately understand. We know that during the attack, Arya rescues Jagan and another 2 men. Arya later sees her free and hopes they will not recognize her. When eventually they meet, Jagan tells Arya that there is a debt he has to repay, this debt being 3 lives. And she is the one that will have to name the ones to die. There is something strange at this point. Jagan usually uses the term many-faced god, though this time he says,
"The Red God takes what is his, lovely girl."
This happens both in the show and in the books. I think that the main explanation for this is that they would have burned in the carriage, and that is why he used the term Red God, because all those who are burned at the stake or otherwise just burned probably are considered tribute to the Red God. After some time, Arya decides who her targets are going to be and Jagan accepts. He delivers the promised results and at the end even helps Arya and her friends escape. Once the payment is done, Jagan offers Arya a coin along with instructions about what to do with it. After this, the man changes his face and becomes an entirely different person. This is the moment when we realize what we are dealing with, a mysterious figure possessing great powers that apparently comes from the city of Braavos. Arya does not know who he is or if he belongs to an organization. We find out he is part of the Faceless Men once Arya reaches Braavos. The next time we encounter one of these Faceless Men, we do so in the persona of the Kindly Man, the one that receives Arya in the House of Black and White. He tells Arya that if she is to become a Faceless Man, she should learn about their history. The origins of the Faceless Men come from Old Valyria. For those who don't know, Old Valyria was once the strongest empire of Essos and was ruled by the powerful Dragon Lords. Part of these lords were the Targaryens as well. They were not a major house, but still they were Dragon Lords. At some point, 400 years before the current events, there was a cataclysm that completely destroyed the Valyrian Peninsula, and with it the entire Valyrian culture and its dragons. The last Dragon Lords were the Targaryens. The family survived the doom by moving completely from Valyria 200 years before the cataclysm to the island of Dragonstone, but we will talk about this in another video. We learned that the wealth of Valyria came from conquest and slavery. The slaves were being taken from all corners of the Valyrian Empire in order to dig and extract gold and other metals. The mines were dug deep, even into active volcanoes, and that meant that many slaves would quickly perish. The conditions were so harsh that many would have rather died than returning to work in the mines. It was this desire for death and liberation that would be the one spark that lit the fire now called the Faceless Men. At a certain point, a man that used to come often in the mines for a reason that we do not know, maybe he was a slave, a watcher, or even one of the masters, heard the slaves praying, each in its own language and each praying to their own gods. After meditating on this, the men realized that all gods have servants, priests that tell the will of the gods to humans, a priest, a monk, a shaman, a spirit healer, clairvoyant, a prophet, something. All the gods had one, least one, the god of death. The man also notices one more thing. Although they were all praying to different gods with different names, they all asked for one thing, their death to their own death god. This is the moment when the man realizes that, as all the other gods, the god of death needs servants. And above all other things, he realizes that there is only one thing certain and one common thing in all these religions. It is death. There must be only one god of death with many faces. He then finds the slave that prayed the most and delivers him the long sought after liberation. Henceforth he will deliver the gift to many more, both slaves and masters. There is no precise date on these events, but we know it happened in the time of Valyria, before the formation of Braavos. And about Braavos and the other cities, we will have a separate video. In conclusion, the origins of the Order are rooted in the delivery of mercy to those in need of it. The gift of liberation from pain and suffering given to those who deserve it the most. We are told several times that these men of the black and white cannot choose freely whom to kill. The gift must be asked for or sent to. We learn that the main headquarters of the Faceless Men is found in Braavos, on the island of the gods. The island is in the middle of Braavos, and it is the place where all major cults from both Essos and Westeros have their temples in the city. This is the place of the Sept of the Seven and the Lord of Light, along with some other small religions, and also the House of Black and White. The building is described as being grey with a black roof, without windows, and isolated from the other buildings with a long dock in front of it. We also get a description of the entrance, made out of two doors. One is white and one is black, with carved faces on them. The white one is made out of weirwood, and that is rather strange, since we know that weirwood has its own magical properties, and it is sacred to the children of the forest. Furthermore, in a later scene, Arya witnesses a gathering of the Faceless Men around a table with both white and black seats. The white seats are again made out of weirwood, and an even stranger thing is that they have faces on them. The weirwood seats have ebon faces, and the ebon seats have weirwood faces. This begs the questions, are the Faceless Men more inclined towards the old gods? Or even worse, are they enemies of them? Since cutting down the trees cannot be a good sign of friendship. In the books there are a few more references to weirwood furniture, although without the faces. It seems that weirwood does not rot, and this makes it extremely expensive and sought after. From an architectural point of view, the House of Black and White is divided in three segments. The first is the main hall, the place of service, in which all the priests and all the visitors have access. We have seen this room in the show. This is the room in which we find all the statues of the gods of Essos and Westeros. The second level is the servant quarter, where the people of the house have their sleeping rooms. We have seen this on the show as well. The third and final level is called the Hall of Faces. This is a sanctum sanctorum of the temple. Only priests have access here. This is the room where Arya will receive her first face. Returning to the meeting of the high chairs, we learn a lot of information from it. We learn about the ebon and weirwood chairs. We learn that there are at least 12 priests, 11 that are there plus the waif, since she is part of the system. There is also Jaqen H'ghar. We don't know if he is there at the meeting or if he is elsewhere. We also learn about the system of acceptance of a contract. At a certain point, one of the priests says, "I know this man," and another answers, "I will give this man the gift. I know him not." This brings us to the conclusion that if you do know the person that is about to get killed, you are unable to deliver the gift. At the end of the meeting, Arya receives her first mission. The books underline the fact that Arya does not know this man. Another thing we learn about is the price. Every time we hear about the Faceless Men's price, we hear some absurd amounts. Robert once says that they should hire the Faceless Men to kill Dany. Tyrion dreams of sending one after Cersei. Davos mentions one could kill Melisandre, and Cersei thinks about hiring one to kill Bronn. And the reason none of them does is because of how expensive they are. It seems that there is a direct link between the value of the target and that of the one who requests it. Just asking for it does not make the contract valid. There seem to be other conditions. We don't get a clear answer on this one. But it does seem that the gift can only be offered to those who either took a life which is not theirs to take, so now must pay the price to the god of death, or to those who ask for the gift. Calling them assassins is not the best description. They are far more a religious order than a military one. There is an example about the price. At a certain point, a noble asked for his wife to be killed. The Faceless Men accepted the request, and the price of the deed was 2/3 of his fortune. So if that is an indicator, you can imagine that Robert and Cersei would have had to pay for their contracts. 2/3 of all they had. Besides the mystery of the price, the other mystery surrounding the Faceless Men is their ability to change faces. Some speculate that it is actually a glamour like the one Melisandre uses, while others say it is a far more complex thing. In fact, it seems to be a combination of magic and practical skills, with a spiritual component added as well. When Arya receives her first face, she is first cut on the face so that her blood may animate the new face. When she puts the face on, she feels it, as if the skin is grabbing on her face. More so, she receives some of the memories of the girl that used to wear the face. In this case, a young girl who used to be beaten by her father. She feels the rage and the violence. She even sees her father's face. Obviously, this is not just a trick. It is more than just an illusion. It's far more complex. We might eventually learn about it, although I don't think it's mandatory for the story. From Arya, we also learn about the characteristics of these 11 Faceless Men. It is pretty obvious that Martin has given us these descriptions so that we may later be able to recognize them in different situations. Arya gives the men names based on certain body or facial traits. We learn about the kindly men who Arya spends most of her time with. Then there is the handsome man, the fat fellow, the stern face, the squinter, the alchemist, the lordling, plague face, and the starved man. The one that gives Arya her first mission is actually the plague face. With this, we get to the theories and tinfoil hat territory. The very first question everybody asks is, what was a Faceless Man doing in King's Landing? When Arya first meets Jagan, he was just taken from the black cells. That means he was in the deepest cells of the crown prisons and was now being shipped to the wall. So the question is, how did a skilled assassin that cost a fortune get caught? It is highly unlikely that a Faceless Man would get caught unless he wants to get caught. So what was he doing in King's Landing? Was he there for a contract? If so, whose? Was he there especially for Arya? There are a few theories that go in different directions, but none of them are actually good enough. Martin said a couple of times that he is sorry for leaving sometimes too many hints and sometimes too little. I do believe that this is a too little situation. I am pretty sure that Jagan did not get arrested by mistake. Such a skilled assassin, one of only a dozen men in the world, everyone knows them and fears them, such a man cannot simply get captured. He would have just changed his face. So his motive must have been to be in prison. But why? To kill Eddard Stark, who was also in the black cells? Or was it to get shipped to the wall? Or was there someone else in the cells? This theory of him wanting to get shipped to the wall is also a bit dodgy. He could have just walked inside Castle Black and enrolled. Was he just looking for free passage? Some will say, wait a second, people would suspect him if he just walked in, nobody simply enrolls. Actually, a lot simply enroll. Jon Snow, Jorah Mormont, Samwell Tarly, and many more walked in and enrolled. The point is, he could have done it a lot easier. Plus, what would he be doing at the wall? Some say he might have been there to find the last living Targaryen king, Aemon Targaryen. Or maybe he wanted to kill Azor Ahai since, well, the White Walkers are killing a lot of people, basically delivering the gift of the many-faced god in big chunks. Maybe the Faceless Men actually like the White Walkers, so they want Jon Snow dead so that he can now lead the army against the White Walkers. Or maybe Jagan is actually Rhaegar in disguise, or maybe he's the Night's King on leave of absence. There are many fantasy ways to go about this, but there's no good theory that actually explains it. Another theory about the Faceless Men is that Euron paid the Faceless Men a dragon's egg so that they may kill Balon on the bridge. In the book, dragon eggs are also worth a kingdom, and this theory is quite probably right. There is yet another theory that says the Faceless Men are in a league with the Maesters in order to kill off all and any dragons or Valyrians, thus bringing an end to magic. The only problem is, they themselves are using magic. The main plot of this theory is that Aegon V died at Summerhall while trying to get dragons to hatch. The theory says that in fact it was the Faceless Men that were responsible for the fire and the death of Aegon. The main argument of this theory is that the doom of Valyria happened just after the formation of the Order, and Valyrians were slave masters. But the thing is, the Faceless Men are not revolutionaries. They are not in it to abolish slavery. The fact that Braavos has imposed a non-slavery deal with all trade partners does not come from Faceless Men, but from the history of Braavos, a city established by slaves. The point is, I am prepared to believe they played some role in the destruction of Valyria. But to think that the Faceless Men, this small group of balanced worshippers, this culture of give and take, of action only as a response, of black and white, to think that they killed the Targaryens, well, it is a bit too far-fetched theory. There is a theory that the Maesters poisoned the dragons so that they would not grow large anymore, but we will talk about it in a different video. We now get the last and most talked about theory that Jaqen H'ghar was in fact Syria Forel. On this one, I will have a separate video with detailed explanation to go into all the nooks and crannies of it. I do believe that these stitched up theories that people put together with selective facts and kinda random sometimes arguments usually don't work out. So what do I think? I think they will be instrumental to the story. I think their role is one of support characters and even a plot device. You know, when you need someone dead, no question asked, it was just a Faceless Man. Or maybe they can be a tool to transform Arya from a young girl to a mean killing machine in the shortest amount of time possible. We could have seen this transformation with the help of countless battles and such, but Arya only has a few years to become from zero to amazing. What better place than a secret society of magical assassins to teach her how to be one? There is one more mention of a Faceless Man in the books, in the prologue of A Feast for Crows. The scene happens in Old Town, where a young trainee maester is killed by an alchemist that distinctly resembles Jagan. And days later, Sam meets the same young trainee, still alive and okay, thus implying that Jagan killed him, took his face, and took his place. The questions that mostly baffle me are: what's the deal with the Weirwood? Who are the 11 members and where will we see them again? Were they directly responsible for the doom or just a small part? And the last one, were they responsible for the fire of Summerhall? So, if you got your own theories, go ahead and hit the comment box below. And with that, we've reached the end for today. It is about all from Westeros and the Faceless Men. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. And until the next time, I can only wish you happy throning.